Hi, this is Montana. Welcome to another episode of Lost in Space. This time I'm going to talk to you about the top 10 most important tips for survival. With survival mode's a lot of fun, but no tip is more important than uranium. Get as much uranium as you can as soon as you can. And then after that, your entire game is going to be based around trying to get energy of some sort. Whether it's trying to build up uranium, eventually building a second refinery, just run uranium. Because when you start up in any of their survival games, if you're lucky, depending on your settings, you could have 14 minutes, you could have 4 hours. And when you go into those, it's going to be really surprising just to figure out how exactly you're going to pull this off. Sometimes you'll steal uranium from other ships, sometimes you'll have to just mine it. And that's usually going to be about the slowest way, but that's probably the very first thing you're going to do. Is you go, you check your computer, and then once you get onto the command console, you want to go through and anything that you do not need right at the start of the game, you shut that stuff down. That way you've got a little bit more power and you're able to go in and you're able to just take care of everything. And sometimes you're going to be doing stuff like I'm doing right here. Just well, sometimes you'll just turn stuff all the way down, but then stuff like the gravity generator, you don't need a field that is going 150 meters above and below the generator. You need a field that maybe might just be right about the level that you're going to be at. And I like 10 meters, that's a good ceiling. The acceleration, I usually even drop it down to like zero point 0.3 Gs, zero point 0.4 Gs. And as you can see, that right there dropped, just those two changes, it dropped my energy usage down to a tenth. That's going to extend your energy. I don't have anything to assemble right now. Turn off the assembler. Oh, also, I do like to rename my beacons, just if nothing else, because eventually, after you build enough of them, you're going to end up having different beacons with different names, and it'll help you figure out where things are. This particular survival game, I started out having with just different settings, and so I had a lot of extra ore. I had a lot of extras just in there in general. Depending on some of the settings, you end up with free stuff sitting out in front. But if you like to, there's always the crashed ship scenario. That's a lot of fun. There's also one of my personal favorites I'm starting to get into, and I'll end up playing some of the videos of that, is the lifeboat, where you get into the lifeboat and you really have to start scrambling to try and get stuff going. And so there I am. I've already started getting some stuff going into the refinery, and it's just kind of looking into how you're going to do stuff. But still, at this point of the game, the most important thing is you want to get uranium going, and you want to get uranium going fast. Oh, and as a reminder, when you do stuff in the refinery, you can change around the order. You can alternate it back and forth. For example, if I came up with another batch of uranium, I could throw that towards the end, knowing that I was going to need some of these other materials in there. But regardless, just kind of figure out what you're going to need, throw it where you're going to need it. It'll be nice someday when they might have some sort of a smart system for sorting things. But as we get on with this, next step, and like I said, you have to start mining uranium right off the bat. It amazes me how many people have been playing this alpha for a long time, and we're going to see the same thing whenever it finally goes into beta, whenever it goes into production. Are the people who don't realize that they can hit T while they're mining and just take stuff as it goes. Just to give you an idea of the difference, I'm going to do two batches of mining right now. One holding, well, right now I'm not holding T down, and I'll be holding T down here in another second. As I go through here, I'm just kind of going through, holding, just mining away, mining away, mining away, and I'm just basically just punching a hole in the ground. I'm not trying to look for anything right now, but here in a second I'm going to stop, and then when I stop, I'm going to turn around, I'm going to manually go back, and I'm going to pick every last piece up. And yeah, it can be kind of nice sometimes when you sit there and just hold down T and just start mousing over everything, and it just picks it up all real quick. But I'm sitting there going through and just kind of having to pick things up. One benefit, though, of doing it like this is if I'm specifically looking for iron, if I'm specifically looking for uranium, if there's something I'm looking for and I don't want any stone, you can just punch right through the stone and then just don't even touch T until you get down to the vein of the material you're looking for. That way you can end up having your precious cargo space filled up only with the stuff that you want. There, my inventory is full and I'm on my way back out. And I'm just going to deposit, I'm just going to drop this stuff right here just because the whole purpose is I just want to show you what it's like to go in and mine holding down T. It took me about that long to go through and fill up. Now we'll check this one. And this is holding down T the whole way. And you can already see the volume indicator starting to creep up. Yeah, so normally what I'll end up doing is I'll have one hand on the mouse moving around, pointing at, keeping my pointer on whatever I want to get. I want to hold down W and T with the other hand just to make sure that I continue to go forward towards my objective, and I'm holding down the T just to make sure I take any of the ore that I get. One of the neat things I noticed right here as I was doing this, and you'll kind of notice the odd behavior of the rocks are not just going all over the place, is I'm essentially mining straight down just off of where the platform is, which means I'm still inside the gravity well of the gravity generator. And that means that all of the rock that I'm mining, instead of floating off into space, floating back up the tunnel, it's all following gravity and is going down. Okay, there, and look, I'm already full. But all of those rocks, they were just kind of falling straight down as part of the gravity well that was right there. And even those rocks right there that you see, they were trapped there just because of the gravity. But here I've already filled up. I've got my material going, and I'm ready to go on, just saving that much time. And this is number 3, one of my favorite things that I like to do. And part of this is a result of one, I think it was my very first survival game, might have been my second. I thought I had enough stuff, I didn't. And just having beacons out there where you can look at them. Okay, and I don't know if you just noticed that there, but as I was backing away, the platform, depending on your graphics settings, is going to disappear anywhere between 7,000 to 8,500 meters. So 7 to 8.5 clicks, you're going to lose your beacon. I'm flying around trying to go and look after stuff. And here's a military escort I went after. This is something, do you see that down in the bottom where the platform is? Keep a real close eye here. There it goes. That was my beacon back on my platform disappearing right at the very moment that it ran out of power. And so I'm sitting here, I'm maneuvering around. All I know is right now, just knowing that that's where it flashed out, it's about my 5 o'clock low back in behind me. So I come in, I'm moving in on this military escort to come and grab it. And this is pretty close to totally correct reenactment of what happened on my very first survival game. I went in, I thought I had my base all set up, I thought my energy was ready to go, it was rocking and rolling, everything was all just going great. I'm sitting there, I go along, just as I'm about ready to take over the ship, I glanced down, and it was right about this moment while I was doing this I realized, where did my beacon go? And I am outside of the range of the asteroids. They're not showing up on my screen anywhere, and I am beyond any sort of visual, and with that beacon out, I have no idea where it is. So if I'm looking for some legitimate rocks in the middle of a bunch of fake rocks, that's a mess. This next point, and I'm going to start out here with a shot of one of the fighter doing the Millennium Falcon trash run. I decided to show the effects of what happens when you have ships sitting on the hull of another ship and you try to move it. So I've had the Millennium Falcon on the back end, it was all locked in, engines all on. This one's locked in, engines are all on. And actually, yep, this one is just sitting there. And some of the fun that I had just by damaging the deck plates, because this is all light armor. But that one's just going to be sitting there right on the hull, not even doing anything. Because I know that I've done this myself. You go up, you fly in. Usually it's just that first couple of times doing survival. This one right here, it's parked inside. I'm leaving it locked in. And I'm turning off all of the gyroscopes. Because I've seen people suggest that you do this. Just leave the engines on, turn off the gyroscopes, you're going to be fine. This one, I went in, I landed, I locked it down, and it's off. Now to show you what's going to happen, I've got those 5 ships all in different spots around there. Here I jump into Big Blue, everybody's favorite. And the Millennium Falcon, it just burns off right at the start. That one that was just sitting there, it just turns into flotsam. And you can see the engines just wailing away up at that one at the port side up front. And I just start making some moves. And what's happening right here is while it's turned on, yeah, and you'll wait till you see the hole that that one made. While it's turned on, is the same thing that happened with that one that was down the trash run, is it doesn't want to go anywhere. And that first little bit of smoke right there is my first sign that something was wrong up in the front, and you'll see that in a second. Okay, first, Millennium Falcon trash run. Essentially, we were trying to move it in a direction it didn't want to go. It started firing its down thrusters, melted off the plates, blew off its anchorage. And that's pretty much what happened up there on the port side up front, is I started moving it in a direction it didn't want to go. And look at the hole that that thing gouged in there. If you haven't seen a ship going pretty fast, ramming another ship, that thing tore a chunk out of that. It's almost more damage than a lot of the kinetic weapons I've seen people invent. The one that just flew free, it didn't really do much to the side of the ship. Check that one. Started moving it around, turned off everything, but it just did not want to sit in one place. The one that was locked down, it's just fine. The problems you are going to notice is if you have a foreign body locked onto your ship someplace that it's not in a center of mass, you will notice problems. As in a lot of games, bring a med kit. If you don't have on your base, if you do not have any sort of a medical station set up, and I'm not going to show you the video of this, you're going to end up having troubles coming back trying to find your stuff in the lifeboat. Something a lot of people miss is the fact that the assembler is also a disassembler. You have some sort of rare piece that you need, like a solar panel, or you need a motor or something like that, and you don't have the particular ingot or type of metal that you need. All you have to do is you go in, you throw the appropriate stuff into a disassembler, the assembler, click on disassembling, disassemble all, and you just start making everything you need. And you can just sit there and throw whatever ship up in front of you you want to use, and you can just start beating it all up. Start cutting the ship up, and so I'm just clipping out just a little bit here and there. But you go ahead and you cut the ship apart, you just keep throwing the pieces in, and as it goes, it keeps cutting into it, and it keeps going and going and going. And in case you're wondering, yeah, this is just kind of going through and it's chopping everything up and it's turning it back into the component parts. So say if you're sitting there and you're cutting stuff up and you get way too many pieces of one thing, you can get something else. And I'm a big fan of automation. Tied in with that, measure twice, cut once. You want to make sure that when you're hacking up a ship, you hack it up the right way. And I'm going to go ahead and speed this section up here in a bit as soon as I get ready to start cutting it up. But yeah, this is one of the mining ships. I kind of trashed it a little bit, so I thought, I'll go ahead and I'll beat it up. What I'm doing it over is what I've started to refer to as the cone of shame. And I will take that and set it up over a bunch of the collectors That way I'll sit and you can see my volume on my astronaut is full. So as I go through there, every single piece that I chop up, it just drops, it falls right in, and it just drops right into the collectors. The collectors in my setup are set up into the conveyors and the conveyor tubes and all that stuff feed it into the storage. They'll feed it into the assembler. They'll feed it into the refinery. I'll feed them also. I'll attach something to run from the refinery to go over into the uh, reactor too. So anytime I come across some uranium, if you've got the reactor tied into everything else, what will happen is the uranium will automatically get fed into the refiner, into the reactor, just keeping your energy up. And you don't have to worry about what your level is. You don't have to worry how much is in there. You can just keep moving stuff around. And I've heard rumors that in the future we're going to be getting a new conveyor tube that is going to be an L shape. So it'll be a 90 degrees bend. So that'll be kind of a neat thing. But yeah, I've got all of that stuff's caught up in the collector. I'll have to take a look at some of that stuff. I don't have all my collectors connected the right way, so I can still move them since they're attached collector to a conveyor and so I can still move them. I can drag them across my inventory, but that's about as far as it's going to go. Start and finish in the chair. I'm a big fan of this one. If you don't start in the chair, you don't know what your status is. You don't know what your energy is. You don't know what your inventory is. I always like to do that, especially if I haven't played a particular scenario for a couple days, a couple weeks, something like that. This way you can go in, you can take a quick look around, you can see what the status is, you can realize, oh, okay, I'm going to need some of this, this, and this, and you know what resources you need, you know what materials you need the assembler to start kicking out, and you can start going through to see, oh, okay, I can kick the gravity back up, or oh, I can turn on this or that. And it's just always a nice little touch to have, is just to be able to go in and set everything up. And so like what I'm doing right there is I'm getting ready to get off. So I go ahead and I'm going to kick the settings all down, turn off the collectors. I'm going to go through and I'm going to leave the one refinery on just simply because there's materials in it that I need to get refined. But then once you get that taken care of, you can move along. I think that's when I realized I needed to turn that refinery back on. But you can easily take what you have to run from minutes to hours to days simply by changing some of that stuff. And this is the part of the program where I try to remind you that yes, Newton bites. And Newton's got three wonderful laws. And if you turn off your jetpack in the wrong place, if you go flying a little bit too fast, and I have to apologize for this section, as some of you have noticed, the frame rate since the most recent patch have kind of been questionable. That and just as you've seen, if the game's been on for a while, it starts to fill up some spots in the memory a little bit more than you really should. But here I thought I would have hit it that first time, and no, I bounced twice this time. But yeah, and this is me just being a little bit silly, but it's not hard to die. You go in there and you'll see what happens in different spots. Is here I respawn back in the base, and then because where I died right here, I respawn inside the ship, Big Red. And so it's just all kinds of different things you can do. You just got to be careful. And just if you end up not saving yourself, you're going to be in trouble. Good luck playing, and I hope to see you.